Addiction doesn't knock, it whispers. It promises comfort, escape, and control. And before you realize it, you're no longer choosing, you're obeying. There are two kinds of addiction: substance and behavior. Different paths, same destination. Addiction is not just a lack of discipline. It is a rewiring of the brain, a hijacking of the reward system. Deep inside the human brain lies a system designed for survival. It rewards behaviors that keep us alive: eating, bonding, achieving. Every time we experience pleasure, the brain releases dopamine, a chemical that reinforces behavior and tells us to repeat it. It is how habits are formed. It is how motivation works. But addiction takes this natural system and distorts it. What once served survival begins to serve compulsion. At first, the experience is voluntary, a choice, something new, something enjoyable. But over time, the brain adapts. It begins to depend on that repeated stimulation. The baseline of pleasure shifts. What once felt exciting becomes normal. And what is normal without it begins to feel empty. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness feels heavy. This is where the cycle begins, not with weakness, but with wiring. For millions of people around the world, gaming is harmless entertainment, a way to relax, connect, and escape stress. But for some, it becomes something far more consuming. A world that offers rewards faster than real life ever could. A system designed to keep players engaged, constantly chasing the next achievement, the next upgrade, the next victory. Daniel is 17 years old, bright, curious, and once full of ambition. He used to wake up early, prepare for school, and think about his future. But that was before he discovered a game that never truly ends. A game where progress is constant, rewards are immediate, and failure is temporary. In that digital world, Daniel feels powerful. He achieves goals. He earns recognition. He belongs to a community that understands him. Every level unlocked, every victory achieved, sends a surge of satisfaction through his brain. A surge that real-life struggles no longer provide. In the game, effort always leads to reward. In real life, effort can lead to uncertainty. But outside that world, things begin to change. His grades drop, his sleep disappears, conversations with family become shorter, then silent. Meals are skipped. Responsibilities are ignored. Days blur into nights, and nights into endless sessions behind a glowing screen. Gaming addiction does not just take time. It reshapes priorities. It replaces identity. The brain begins to prefer virtual success over real-life effort. Over time, even when the player wants to stop, the urge remains. Not because they lack discipline, but because their brain has learned to depend on that stimulation. The screen is no longer just a screen. It becomes an escape from discomfort, from stress, from reality itself. And the more one escapes, the harder it becomes to return. The outside world begins to feel slow, demanding, and unrewarding. While inside the game, everything is immediate, predictable, and controlled. Alcohol tells a different story, but leads to the same place. It is one of the most accepted substances in society, present at celebrations, gatherings, and moments of relaxation. It is normalized, even encouraged. But beneath that acceptance lies a quiet risk that often goes unnoticed until it is too late. Michael is 34 years old, a working professional with responsibilities, pressures, and expectations. At first, alcohol was simply a way to unwind, a drink after work, a way to ease the stress of the day. It worked. It relaxed him. It softened the noise of his thoughts and gave him a sense of relief. But slowly, something changed. One drink became two. Two became a routine. And the routine became a need. The habit no longer felt optional. It became part of his daily rhythm, something his body began to expect. At some point, Michael stopped drinking to feel good. He started drinking to feel normal. Without it, anxiety increased. Sleep became difficult. Irritability set in. The absence of alcohol began to feel worse than its presence. What once provided relief now prevented discomfort. This is how substance addiction works. The brain adapts to the chemical. It reduces its natural ability to produce pleasure. It becomes reliant on the substance to function at a baseline level. Over time, tolerance builds. More is needed to achieve the same effect. Alcohol begins to affect judgment, memory, and control. Decisions become impulsive. Consequences are ignored. Relationships suffer. Work performance declines. Trust begins to break. And yet, the cycle continues. Because addiction is not driven by logic. It is driven by conditioning. The brain remembers relief. It remembers escape. And it demands repetition even when the consequences are clear. Sex, like food and connection, is a natural and powerful human drive. It is tied to emotion, intimacy, and biology. But when it becomes compulsive, it shifts from connection to escape, from meaning to repetition. Sex addiction is often hidden. It does not always appear in obvious ways. It can exist behind closed doors, behind screens, behind secrecy. It is often accompanied by shame, guilt, and silence. Those experiencing it may appear normal on the outside while struggling internally. For many, the behavior is not simply about desire. It becomes a coping mechanism, a way to deal with loneliness, stress, rejection, or emotional pain. The brain begins to associate relief with repetition, creating a loop that is difficult to break. But like all addictions, the effect does not last. The satisfaction fades quickly, leaving behind a need for more. More intensity, more frequency, more stimulation. What once felt enough no longer satisfies. Over time, relationships begin to suffer. Trust may be broken. Emotional connection weakens. What once brought closeness begins to create distance. The individual may feel trapped between the urge to continue and the desire to stop. This internal conflict is one of the most painful aspects of addiction. Knowing the consequences, yet feeling unable to change. Wanting control, but feeling controlled. It is not a simple choice. It is a learned pattern reinforced over time. Despite the differences between gaming, alcohol, and sex, they all follow a similar path. It begins with pleasure, it grows through repetition, it deepens with dependence, and it often ends in loss of control. Addiction isolates. It creates distance between people and their goals, their relationships, and their sense of self. It narrows focus until the addiction becomes the center of life. Everything else becomes secondary. Time is lost, opportunities fade, connections weaken, and the individual may begin to feel disconnected not just from others, but from themselves. But understanding addiction is the first step towards breaking it, because beneath the behavior lies a human need. A need for relief, for connection, for meaning, for escape from pain or pressure. Recovery is not immediate. It is not easy. It requires awareness, support, and time. It requires confronting discomfort instead of escaping it. It requires learning new ways to cope, new ways to find meaning, and new ways to experience satisfaction. The brain, just like it learned addiction, can learn recovery. New pathways can form. New habits can develop. Real achievements can begin to replace artificial rewards. Real connections can begin to heal emotional wounds. Support plays a critical role. Whether through family, friends, or professional help, no one overcomes addiction entirely alone. Speaking about it breaks the silence. And in that silence, addiction often grows strongest. There is also power in small decisions. Turning off the game. Refusing the drink. Stepping away from harmful patterns. Choosing connection over isolation. These moments may seem small, but over time they reshape the mind. Progress may be slow. There may be setbacks. But each step forward matters. Each decision builds strength. Each moment of awareness creates change. Addiction may feel permanent, but it is not. It is a condition that can be changed. A pattern that can be broken. A cycle that can be interrupted. Across the world, millions of people face addiction in different forms. Some visible, others hidden. But all share one thing in common: the capacity to change. The journey back is not about perfection. It is about persistence. About choosing, again and again, to move towards a healthier life. About rebuilding, even after falling. Because addiction may be powerful, but it is not. It is a condition that can be changed. A pattern that can be broken. a cycle that can be interrupted. Every moment presents a choice: to continue the cycle or to begin breaking it, to escape reality or to face it, to remain controlled or to reclaim control. And that choice, no matter how small it may seem, is where recovery begins. You are not alone.